Okay, hello everyone. My name is Ferry Heilemann, 31, and I'll talk about Freighthub, but also about the general approach how to tackle and transform a huge market. And I'll do that basically in 3 steps, but this is not really working. Okay, now it is. Okay, so first I will give you some insights about my entrepreneurial learnings since 2001. Then actually about the structured approach that we used in order to identify the opportunity that we're now following through with Freighthub. And third, also some background and insights to Freighthub and the current status. So the very beginning of the entrepreneurial career was in 2001. Do we have another one, maybe? Okay. Are you doing it? You do it manually? Okay. Okay. This is going to be a lot of signs. Everything is animated. Okay, so Shishi, what is that? And what's this picture? I was 15, my brother 19, still in high school. It was basically a French pastry business that we saw in southern France while surfing and during vacation. And that business idea, we transferred it to Germany because we saw all the German tourists were eating it in France, but the business and this product didn't exist in Germany. The French crepe, you all know, everyone is eating. Shishi didn't exist, so we bought a machine in Paris and then started selling that stuff out of a pavilion and later out of a trailer, and basically earned our first money with that and managed to pay our tuition fees. And learnings that we generated, it's going to be a lot of clicking. First of all, just click it all in, then it's easier. First of all, what we found out at an early age, being brothers, the first 13 years, we did not work very well together. After 13 years, we became good friends, and with Shishi, we found out we're also a great team in terms of working together. Second of all, it was physically pretty hard. Shishis were baked in oil, 200 degrees hot. If it's outside 30 degrees and you do 16 hours in that trailer, you lose 3 or 4 kilograms of weight within 1 day. And so it was pretty rough, and we're going to our limits, but it was still fun. Take personal risk and also responsibility. We basically invested all money we had at that point of time, a couple of €1,000, confirmation money, into this business, into this machine, but it was profitable from early on, and we managed to accumulate a couple of $10,000 in order to pay our tuition fee later for university. Yet another learning, offline business. It was very offline and was also a little bit stuck to us as us personally, because we were performing a Shishi dance. We were very proactively selling this product because no one knew what Shishi is. People thought, is this some kind of fish or whatever it might be? No, it's French pastry, so you had to be very outgoing in order to sell this product. And we also learned to have a lot of fun while working, which is a very important aspect if you spend that much time working. Then, after some years of doing that, after finishing school and also finishing our studies, I did business, my brother did law, we were thinking, okay, so what's next? We did some internships in consulting and at law firms and stuff, but nothing of that really excited us. And we then actually thought, okay, what was really fun in our history? That was this Shishi business. So selling something, own risk, but also own reward. And that way we decided in 2008, okay, after we finish our studies in 2009, we will become entrepreneurs, digital entrepreneurs. And some learnings there, you can click 3 times, were again, first of all, follow your own passion. Do what you really want to do. Don't follow what your fellow students maybe expect from you, and also don't follow your parents' expectations. They both thought we'd just go into normal and follow a normal job. And of course, also through some experience, find out what you don't want to do. So after we were done with our studies, we started basically really in a very simple way trying to build some businesses, and failed in the beginning quite a lot. One of the businesses, for example, was an on-demand printing machine for Tableau newspaper. Sounds very strange, is also strange, didn't work out, dropped it again. Yeah. Other than that, another company that we were about to found, even in Stanford, my brother did an summer course of entrepreneurship there, was a queue jumper, basically mobile ordering in restaurants, jumping the queue, but there the team broke apart before we even really managed to approach some investors. We also applied back then for an scholarship, some people might know, got declined. So a lot of things did not work out, and we eventually actually ran out of money because our parents decided, well guys, you're done with your studies, you could work. If you decide not to work but to pursue this, it's your business, have fun. And we then got recruited in late 2009, September, October, from Oliver Samba to follow Zalando. Back then, 70 people. I knew Robert and David from still from university, and we earned some money, and we're working on one new venture, one new idea that we had over the weekends and the evening, and got our first funding then in December 2009, which was a daily deal. Couponing site similar to Groupon, and we started the company in December 9th in 2009, and here you see, if you click once, the first website and also the opening balance sheet. And one of the big learnings was pragmatism. Yeah, so basically, really, form doesn't matter. The opening balance sheet does not add any value to the business. It doesn't bring us forward, so we do it as simple, as scrappy as possible. Same basically with the website. It's not a beautiful website, but we were generating revenue in that year, and we were the first guys to go live with this model in continental Europe, followed only 36 hours afterwards with a by City deal, and launched by Rocket. Other learnings in this period of close to 2 years was working under really extreme pressure and actually almost existential threat that was only felt and kind of subjective, but yet there. And this pressure was driving us forward because we perceived this as a once-in-a-lifetime chance. We felt very gifted getting any kind of funding in 2009, which was 1 year after Lehman. There was no money in the market. And that was tough, but at the same time, it pushed us a lot forward. Creating loyal employees was super important because the competitive landscape was very extreme with Groupon in the market, and competitors were trying to steal everything, not just partners, but also employees from us. And another great learning here was that having one enemy, basically, can unite the team a lot. If you have someone you're fighting against, you benchmark yourself against, and where you have very direct competition, it can really push your team forward a lot. So I can highly recommend, in actually whatever business you're pursuing, almost even creating an enemy helps in pushing and aligning your thoughts. And the last two learnings here were basically really an unconditional determination to succeed. We were several times very close to failing, very close hitting the wall, but in the end we always just continued in a very stubborn way, and it eventually paid off. But we did have to sacrifice basically all other things that we were pursuing at that point of time, no matter if it was friends, if it was sports, or also girlfriends that handed in notice only 4 weeks after founding the company because there was just no time anymore. After those 2 years and those learnings, it resulted in a great success. We managed to sell the company to Google in 2011. And this was first really amazing for us, and we thought now we can conquer the world with Google in our back and roll out this model really to bring it to a completely next level and new extent. And we learned a lot about structure and processes. Google is obviously a corporate back then already with 40,000 employees. We had 300. And also that automation is basically a key in the organization. And another learning for us, which was rather hard, was that product is over business. We were all business, execution, revenue driven, and suddenly the product guys were making decisions, and the actual execution and the revenue you were generating came almost last. That was really a clash in cultures. and fairly difficult for us. And two other learnings, we thought, okay, great, Google, internet, biggest internet company, best internet company, but any large organization in the end is corporate. And we really found out, okay, corporate is not for us, and especially not for me. Then after 1.5 years with Google, a big change. We basically bought back the company in 2013. This picture was taken 5:30 a.m. January 31st, right after signing the contract here in the Berlin office at Google. And obviously everyone was super happy because Google could not really handle this business model, and it didn't really fit into their other business models they had, and at the same time really loved getting back our entrepreneurial freedom and also leading the company to the full extent again. So we took over a responsibility for the team. At that point of time, 200 people still. It was a very tough decision overall because the company was highly loss-making. Basically from an output and bottom line perspective, the company deteriorated a lot under Google because it was more about process, more about compliance, finance, and so on, and less about really executing. And therefore, it was a pretty tough decision. A lot of our friends called us stupid or insane, basically grabbing a falling knife with high speed and taking all that risk. But for us, it was a very good decision. Not just because we took over the team again and thought we can do something else with the business, but also especially to gain the freedom back. Then next, we basically built the Sky and Sand as a holding and started to build some other companies out of the nucleus of Daily Deal. So Daily Deal was the biggest operation, but we also started Heilemann and Company, an agency business, basically doing some online marketing and also some consulting for sales, for recruiting, and so on. Besides that, Localize, which was basically Google AdWords for small companies, which was not good, as you see below that, and Pepperbill, a company that's doing iOS-based POS systems for restaurants. And learnings here were, first of all, that restructuring, and this is referring to Daily Deal, is really an art. So we had 200 people, highly loss-making. We had to act quickly, and we were unfortunately not hard enough in the beginning and had to do 3 restructuring rounds, which was obviously very, very difficult for the organization, and you're losing a lot of trust. And I was only able to keep up the morale through very authentic leadership, through a high level of transparency, and through also basically leading every single dismissal talk with employees personally as a founder and helping to outplace them. And a third, and basically the biggest learning out of this period was for us, hey, if you're 2 founders, you can't do 4 businesses plus an investment business at the side. Yeah. So this was, in the end, a high level of defocus and therefore kind of difficult to handle over a longer period of time. On top, synergies, Pepperbill, selling to restaurants. Daily Deal had more than 2,000 restaurants in the database, yet the conversion and the cross-sale was very difficult to actually execute. In theory, perfect case, great. In reality, very, very difficult. So synergies are often way more difficult to leverage than you actually think. And last, done is better than perfect. We already had a fine financing round with Pepperbill, all set, could have signed it, but wanted more, and then the financing round fucked up. So also there, sometimes you really need to know where you stand, and there's a nice German Sprichwort, Spatz in der Hand is sometimes better than die Taube auf dem Dach. In the end, we took 1 year to divest all companies. We sold Daily Deal again to a German company. We merged Heilemann and Company into a US company and sold Pepperbill to Orderbird, and Localize, as said, was just closed in order to create more room then for 1 new foundation. And this new foundation, now I want to basically talk about the approach that we used in order to find Freighthub and to define that model. So, first of all, this was the team as of September 2015. My brother with a law background, myself with a business background. Number three, Michael Wax, mechanical engineer who built electronic race cars, electronically driven race cars during his studies, and then later became a co-founder of Konox, a sensor company that got funding from Andy Bechtolzheim. And Eric Muttersbach on the right-hand side, pure tech guy, was the first CTO at Daily Deal back then, so already a long history, and founded also a couple of other companies in between. And so we had a very complementary skill set, and we all had also an entrepreneurial track record that we brought to the table at that point of time. And another obviously plus point was that through our entrepreneurial background, we had very good access to capital. So that was the team that started in late 2015, and we then applied the following process. First of all, we gathered some high-level market data, especially market sizes, and also double-checked a bit with our passion what kind of topics we wanted to pursue. Second of all, within the markets, what are the market trends? What's the concentration? Who are the stakeholders? And how's the market working? Second, very important, what's the degree of digitalization in that market and what leverage can technology have? Fourth, then generate product ideas, obviously. And fifth, create an alpha version of the product. And then last, check it basically with investors, check it with industry experts, and with existing companies that are already in that business. So that was overall the process that we followed when creating Freighthub as a result. And now I want to dive a little bit deeper into the individual steps. So first of all, identify markets. We used marketbases like Orbis and some others, also expert interviews in order to generate a deeper insight into the market size of specific industries we looked at. We looked at construction, we looked at the shipping industry, and we also looked at green tech, clean tech. The latter one was most difficult. And market sizes should be roughly at least like this. Our findings for the shipping and especially for the freight forwarding industry were in terms of market size enormous. It's a huge market. Depending on the source, it's even $1 trillion business. And just as a fun fact, 1.7 billion tons are shipped per year. Next, market environment and stakeholders. Analyze the degree of concentration. So is this a fragmented market? Are there a few players that are actually holding everything in their hands or not? Very important if you enter a new market. What are the barriers actually to get into that market? Daily Deal back then, no entry barriers at all. That's why there were within 6 weeks, 15 different players in Germany. 13 out of 15 died again because competition was too high, but anyone could pull off such a deal site. In the shipping industry, obviously the barriers are higher. And also understand the margin structure, how is that business or how's the market working. So first of all, the shipping market is highly fragmented. In Germany alone, there are 15,000 freight forwarders listed, and worldwide 40,000. There's some players are big. The biggest generate around 20 billion in revenue. Kühne Nagel amongst them as the biggest ocean freight forwarder. But overall, the market is extremely fragmented. The barriers to entry are for digital players high. On the other hand side, the existing industry guys have very low digital knowledge. The shipping industry, if you don't have contacts, it's very difficult to really get in touch. It's an old boys network to some extent, and if we would not have had a good access into that industry, we could not have founded this company. And last topic, margins are relatively low in that segment, especially due to a lot of manual effort and little level of efficiency. degree of digitization and the leverage of technology. So first of all, the degree of incumbent and digitization at the incumbent players. This was extremely low. And what can technology basically change in that business? And last but not least, the USP. So what kind of competitive advantage can you develop as a new entrant into this market? And can it be a game changer, yes or no? And what we found here by analyzing this market is that the freight forwarding world is really stuck in the 90s. Processes are completely offline. Fax is being used, phone is being used a lot. It has nothing to do with 21st century technology. Just another small fact, the average response time from asking for a quote, so how much does it cost to move 5 containers from Asia to Europe, to getting a result is 101 hours on average. Obviously, this is nothing that should be still existent looking at today's market and how you book a flight, for example, if you look at the personal travel market. Next, technology can, in the end, in this market, lead to a lot of efficiency gains, increased transparency a lot, and also data. There's a ton of data in the market, but almost nothing or very little data is digitized. And through a platform, if you have all data in a digital format, obviously you can use it and you can generate a lot of knowledge for the shippers, going down to actually cost per piece. And in the end, you can even generate the situation that the warehouse becomes obsolete and they can have their warehouse basically on the container ship that is moving. Next, generate a product idea and create the alpha version. So, typical business models for digital players are first either about process efficiency, speed, usability. That was the case that we started with. Second, the topic of vertical integration and basically an end-to-end ownership for customers, for example. And third, a marketplace approach, yeah? Be it an Uber or so on. Second, what are the risks to fail in different approaches and also, or actually in different markets? If it's a blue ocean, similar to Daily Deal back then, it was a blue ocean, the model didn't exist before. Risk to fail is obviously high. Break and replace has a middle, while transforming or digital transformation or also switching to a different distribution channel, like kind of Amazon in the very beginning, instead of selling books offline, selling it online, the risk there is fairly low. Yeah? Now looking at the ideas that we created, this was also an iterative process. In the very first place, we thought, okay, ocean carriers. There's a lot of potential for ocean carriers. They have their information in a lot of different silos. It's really not integrated, and we thought about building an SAP for ocean carriers. But that idea was fairly quickly also again dumped, because there's a lot of consolidation going on. There are not that many ocean carriers, and we would have ended up in an agency business, customizing a lot for every single ocean carrier. The second idea was building SaaS, building software for freight forwarders in order to make them more efficient and in order to optimize their processes and enable them to become better. And as we were digging into that idea, we also conducted a lot of customer interviews and came to the conclusion that the underlying problem in the freight forwarding industry is not something that you can just solve by adding a layer of technology or software layer, but it's actually much deeper in the DNA of these businesses, and therefore we then came up with the idea of creating a full-service freight forwarder and the digital platform, or basically the digital platform and the operations behind that ourselves, and then developed some wireframes and demos in order to pitch it to the very first guys that we met out of the industry. Last topic, validate the idea with experts. So evaluate if your product you're building, is it a nice to have, or is it really solving a problem in the industry? Also understand the customer. whom do you need to tackle, who's winning, who's losing, yeah. And third of all, pitch it to investors, the guys you need later on. Why not checking with them up front? Yeah. And what we did is we interviewed almost 100 B2B customers and got a basically very good understanding of what kind of products we need to build. We need to increase transparency, we need to increase speed, and so on. Find experts and talk to them. Okay, got to speed up a bit. So we were lucky in this case. We had access to some C-level people from forwarding companies, also from ocean carriers, and we did in-depth analysis and interviews with them in order to find out if the model is valid. And Professor Schwenker, who's the former CEO of Roland Berger, was actually really amazed when we presented our first product to him. He leaned back, lit up a cigarette, and said, "This is exactly what I've been teaching basically to the freight forwarding industry over the last years. They never managed to really do it, and now you guys come across with this product." So, and even ideally win some of them as business angels. Talk to incumbent players, basically already covered that, and then pitch to investors. Obviously, in order to do that, you need a certain network, but this is a very good sparring because sometimes you're already narrow in your thinking in the beginning. Okay, now Freighthub, and I think only a couple of minutes left. So, what is Freighthub doing? Just in a few sentences, there's a shipper who wants to move goods from A to B, Asia to Europe. Zalando, for example. In between, there's a layer, freight forwarder. This has been in the past, or this is us right now. This can be also Kühne+Nagel, DHL, Panalpina, and so on. And then there's a multitude of different steps that are done basically by different carriers and different asset owners. And the freight forwarder is calibrating all that together to one new product or one new service for the shipper. So this is just in a couple of sentences combining several services in order to create one new service for the shipper. And how has this been done in the past? This is a quote that we got during our ideation process from one of the incumbent forwarders. This was 2016, but it's still the same way, and it's not the way you want it to be. And we basically saw 4 different process steps in the freight forwarding industry that we wanted to tackle and do differently. First of all, marketing and customer acquisition. It's been done with a lot of phoning and with a lot of cost and in a very manual way. And we are doing it basically through online marketing, through PR, through content strategy, through webinars, and through some screen sharing, which is much more efficient without losing touch to the customer in the end. Quotation and booking. This is one of the core topics. We are the only guys that are able to do real-time quotation. So with us, you can put in Shanghai to Erfurt, and you get results within 5 seconds, not just one result, but actually 100 different results, and you can book immediately on our platform the shipment, which is mind-blowing for people out of the industry. Third, marketing and customer acquisition. This tile is wrong here. It's about handling the shipments. So how do you do the operations behind it? We build our own transport management system in order to have a perfect symbiose between the processes that we build on our platform and the handling in the afterwards. And the last topic is basically customer service, not quotation and booking. And that's also been done by a lot of, or with help from digital tools. And obviously we are still available for customers if needed, but we try to automate as much as possible. Now there would be coming a video, but you need to tell if we still have time in order to do that. Break. Okay. Then click to the next one, please. So just the last 20 seconds. So 6 key facts about Freighthub. Roughly 2 years old. NPS of our customers is higher than 70, which is extremely good. We conducted a 20 million Series A in last December, led by North Zone. Have offices in Berlin and Hamburg, and are just setting up an own office in Hong Kong. Acquired so far more than 800 customers, and a team now roughly around 100, but keep growing that. So that was it from my side. I hope you could take away some interesting aspects, and thanks a lot for your attention.